Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive on an activist, Yuften Eino. We've got some, online profiles, mentions in linguistic resources, a little bit of social media stuff.
A real digital footprint.
Exactly. And we're going to try and piece together what his activism is all about, like who he's connected to, the context he's working in, and all just from these digital breadcrumbs.
Sounds like a challenge, but I'm in.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, the first thing that really pops out to me is on his Twitch. He describes himself as a Rifeño human rights and political activist.
Straight to the point. No messing around.
Right. So Rifeño puts him squarely in Morocco's Rif region. And that's an area with a really strong sense of identity.
Absolutely.
And then he's hitting both human rights and political activism. What do you think? Is that significant, that self-identification right off the bat?
Oh, I think it's huge. I mean, claiming that Rifeño identity, that's a deliberate choice, right?
All right.
Especially with the human rights and political activist after it.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying his activism is deeply tied to the history and experiences of that specific region.
Yeah, it's not just a general thing. It's very place-based.
Yeah.
And speaking of ties, the thing that kept popping up over and over was his affiliation with organization Yuften Global.
That's a mouthful.
It is. But it seems super important to understanding him. Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar, Yuften is an alphabet used for various Berber languages. And the Amazigh people, they are indigenous to North Africa, including the Rif region.
Right. So this connection to the organization Yuften Global, it points to a commitment to Amazigh cultural and linguistic rights.
It's not just a passing interest. It seems fundamental to his activist identity.
Totally.
And there's this really interesting detail. In a Rifian Spanish dictionary, Yuften Eino is actually used in the example translation for the word thabrat, meaning message.
Oh, wow. That's a very specific connection. What do you make of that?
I think it really just drives home that Rifeño identity even more. It's not just words, it's woven into the language itself. And it makes me think he's probably involved in trying to preserve and promote the Rif language, this particular Berber dialect.
Interesting. Now, we also see mentions of the Republic of the Rif connected to him on social media.
Ah, yes, the Republic of the Rif. Now, that is a term loaded with historical baggage.
It is. Even though it was short-lived back in the 1920s, it symbolizes self-determination and resistance for many in the region. To see it linked with him online?
It's suggestive.
It is. It makes you think his political leanings might favor greater autonomy for the region, or at least a strong recognition of that distinct Rifeño history. And then, of course, that brings us to the likely connection to the Hirak Rif movement. Right.
So for our listeners, the Hirak Rif protests, they erupted in 2016, 2017. It was a response to marginalization, unemployment, perceived corruption, militarization of the region, all triggered by a really tragic incident. How do you see Yuften Eino's stated identity fitting into the context of these protests?
Well, the alignment is pretty compelling. The Hirak movement, they were demanding social, economic, cultural, and political rights, with a strong emphasis on recognition of Berber identity and language.
Yeah.
And that directly connects with his affiliation with organization Yuften Global.
It does.
And, the Moroccan government, they responded to the Hirak with arrests, some pretty harsh sentences. So his activism, it comes with risks, which likely influences how he uses his online presence.
And he definitely has an online presence.
He does.
His Twitch channel, it very clearly lays out his identity, his connection to organization Yuften Global. He even mentions TV night, suggesting some kind of live online engagement. And then there's his YouTube channel. He's got titles in Arabic and Spanish. What's he doing with this multilingual approach?
Well, using both Arabic and Spanish suggests he's trying to reach a wider audience, right? Within Morocco itself, but also potentially the diaspora.
Makes sense.
And some of the content on his YouTube, there are religious discussions, and some of the titles suggest he's maybe critical of Islam. He also has videos about Amazigh identity, things like infidel Amazigh.
Okay, that's making a statement.
It is definitely provocative.
It is. It suggests his views might be controversial, going beyond just the cultural and political activism.
Right.
And the fact that he's using these different languages probably reflects the complex linguistic landscape he's navigating. He's also using YouTube Shorts and Facebook, so he's going for a broad reach. So we don't see formal awards or anything, but his online activity, his ties to organizations, that all points to recognition within specific online communities. And the amazing cultural movement.
Exactly. But activism in the RIF, mixed with these potentially challenging religious views online, it probably means he's walking a tightrope.
Oh, yeah.
Where support and controversy can clash. So I want to pose a question to our listeners. Thinking about Yuften Eino's online presence, we see human rights advocacy, cultural identity, and these, potentially controversial religious views.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about activism in the 21st century? Especially in regions with such complex histories. How has the internet changed how people make their voices heard? It's a really interesting question to consider.
It is. Food for thought.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been fascinating.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.